My rival signed me up on a dating site. I got a call and was about to yell at what I thought was a scammer when text appeared before my eyes. The male lead is scared of an arranged marriage. So, he randomly filled in her info on a dating site. Little did he know, she'd actually catch herself a rich, handsome husband. Too bad the female supporting character doesn't have that luck. The guy she scared away becomes the female lead's most devoted admirer. The second male lead, who could never win her heart, even dies, saving the female lead. Such a tragic setup. So I immediately cleared my throat and said sweetly, "I'm free tonight. Let's meet up." A pleasant voice on the other end replied, "Sounds good, Miss Wilson. I'll text you the location shortly." Then, he hung up. Before I could process what just happened, more floating text appeared. Wait, what's wrong with this supporting character? Why did she agree? Isn't she supposed to reject him and insult him? No way. What if the second male lead actually falls for her? My devoted second lead can only belong to the female lead. How could he possibly like her? Besides her face, what does she have compared to our precious female lead? I looked up the dating website he mentioned. I was shocked. This wasn't just legit. The membership fee was $99,999. Now I fully understood how much David hated me. To avoid an arranged marriage with me, he was willing to spend that much money. But arranged marriages are pushed by our parents. David and I hate each other so much. We could only be enemies, never spouses. To prepare for tonight's date, I went straight to a beauty salon. Then my mom called. "Listen, you're in your mid-20s now. And it's almost New Year's. What am I supposed to tell our relatives?" I sighed. "Mom, we're not poor. And our relatives are doing well, too. Why are they so bored that they have to meddle in other people's business?" My mom was honest. "Well, I was too bored in previous years and kept nagging them about their kids. Now they're getting back at me. Can't you just refuse to answer?" I didn't let them refuse back then. What goes around comes around. I was speechless with frustration, but I used my prepared response. "Stop trying to set me up with David. I have a boyfriend now." "Since when? What does he look like? What does he do?" "Don't ask. I'll bring him home for New Year's, and you can see for yourself." After hanging up, I started panicking. Like the floating text said, I only got a chance to meet the second male lead. Whether I'd like him or he'd like me was still unknown. I muttered to myself, if this doesn't work out, I guess I'll have to rent a boyfriend to bring home for New Year's. The floating text seemed relieved. So she's also afraid of the arranged marriage. But trusting a random phone call? She has zero sense of caution. The second male lead belongs to the female lead and the audience, not this supporting character. I don't think the second lead has such poor judgment. A guy this good, his way out of her league. Once he meets the female lead, the choice will be obvious. That evening, when I first saw Chris Anderson, I couldn't help but admire. He really is gorgeous, so I got straight to the point. Let's cut to the chase. Want to get married? I'd seen enough floating text. Everyone said he was devoted, loyal, and rich. And handsome. They said he had no bad habits and hadn't dated anyone because he was focused on his career. They even detailed his family background. More accurate than a background check. He paused for just a moment, then responded, "I haven't even introduced myself yet." I nodded. "I just feel like we have a connection with such a perfect man." What was there to be picky about? What connection? She just saw a hot guy and got interested. Why can't it be that she's also afraid of the arranged marriage? I don't think the supporting character is as bad as you all say. The female lead is about to appear. Let's see how she competes with that. I listened carefully as he introduced himself, then briefly introduced myself. I stood up and invited him. "If you're still free tonight, why don't we take a walk? Better than sitting here, awkwardly. If I can't fight fate, I can at least try to avoid it. I need to create more opportunities for myself. Don't people reach the peak of their lives through their own efforts?" He had no objections and followed me out of the coffee shop. Walking along the lakeside path, I asked, "With your qualifications, why use a dating site? Doesn't your family introduce you to suitable matches?" I almost asked him directly why he wasn't doing an arranged marriage. Honestly, compared to his family, mine was way out of his league. He nodded. "I'm someone who goes by feelings. The person I'll spend my life with, I hope it's someone I genuinely like. As for conditions and status, I don't think those are the important things." Exactly. That's why once the female lead caught his eye, he never looked at anyone else. His love for the female lead is real. And his ending made me cry so hard I couldn't breathe. I noticed a stray cat near my feet. I pulled out a portable pack of cat food from my pocket. "You carry that around?" I thought he meant the cat food. So I explained. "Yeah. Feeding stray cats those treat sticks isn't good for them. They can get mouth infections. This bag works as a bowl. It's more convenient and doesn't harm the environment." He smiled. Do you have cats for cats?
And one dog.
Maybe you can meet them sometime. The supporting character is so manipulative, trying to create a caring persona. But the second lead likes that special feeling. Does she think taking him away so he won't meet the female lead will work? They're destined to meet, and she'll regret it. Who can predict the future? But before I could finish that thought, I realized the floating text was right. Female lead Emily Rain appeared. She ran past a shouting "Stop, thief." Behind her, an elderly woman was crying and slapping her thigh. The kind-hearted female lead quickly ran out of breath. Now it was my turn to show what I could do. The floating text only praised my face, not my athletic ability. I quickly sprinted forward. Just as I was about to catch the thief, I saw the floating text. This supporting character is so stupid. A woman daring to chase after him. That thief has a knife. At the same time, I saw the thief reaching for something. Though I panicked, survival was most important. As I was lifting my foot to kick, someone else's foot had already struck. It was Chris Anderson who had chased after me. The thief was kicked to the ground, and the knife he'd just pulled out went flying. Chris pinned the thief down completely. Due to the momentum of my attempted kick, I ended up kicking myself off balance and fell. At that moment, Emily Rain also ran up, out of breath, anxiously. "Help me up. Are you okay?" My knee hurt badly, so I had to be honest.
Ugh.
I wanted to act tough and say I'm fine, but my knee hurts so much I want to cry. Why is this supporting character so funny? The female lead is so pure and beautiful. Now that she's sweating, she's like a goddess descended from heaven. Took a good look at Emily Rain. The exercise that was too intense for her only made her break a light sweat, and her face was beautifully flushed. She thanked Chris, grabbed the recovered bag, and jogged back to the elderly woman who'd been robbed. She's so kind. I'm falling for her myself. Chris stared at her retreating figure, and I had a feeling that maybe love really is destined. But then Chris, still holding down the thief, turned to me. "Can you call the police?" I immediately called the police. And then he said to me, "Are you okay?" I shook my head. "I'm fine." He didn't even get the knife out. Robbery is one thing, assault with a deadly weapon is another. The police arrived quickly. As they took the thief away, Chris suddenly walked toward the crying elderly woman. She was still shaken from the ordeal. We'd all heard her crying earlier. The bag contained money she'd just withdrawn from the bank for her husband's life-saving treatment. They didn't have enough money as it was, and it had almost been stolen. The female lead anxiously comforted the old woman. "I can help you figure something out." Chris made a phone call.
Mom.
"Could you tell me which hospital your husband is at? I'll cover his medical expenses." So, the second male lead really would do anything for the female lead, with both of them persuading her. The old woman finally left feeling reassured. I have to say, the female lead and second male lead look perfect together. I'm team second lead. I support him getting the girl. Why is the supporting character still standing there like an idiot? Can't you see the vibe is perfect right now? Why is she being a third wheel? Actually, I wasn't trying to be a third wheel. After standing up, I realized my foot hurt terribly. Soon Chris walked over to me. "Are you hurt somewhere?" I tried walking a few steps. "My foot hurts badly. I think I twisted it." The supporting character is such a manipulative green tea girl. Using these tactics, "My foot hurts too. Can I find a handsome guy to take me to the hospital?" Chris didn't hesitate and took me to the hospital. Unbelievable. While running and kicking, I managed to fracture my own bone. What made me even angrier was the most absurd floating text. The supporting character has already lost badly enough, and now her bone is fractured. How can she compete with the female lead's perfect bone structure, right? Before New Year's, I fractured my own bone. David somehow heard about it. He showed up at my place all casual, even bringing an expensive crutch as a gift. That handsome face of his always said crazy things right before New Year's. "You're on crutches? You're really something." Sarah Wilson. I couldn't imagine how a girl like Emily Rain could fall for someone like David. What a family tragedy.
Don't worry about me.
It's a fracture, not a break. You don't have to be so happy about it. His fingers suddenly poked my forehead when I wasn't paying attention. "Are you a woman? Do you even remember? The guy had a knife and you still chased him? Do you have a death wish?" David and I were frenemies, but we didn't actually want each other dead. How was I supposed to know he had a knife when I started chasing? But thanks to you cursing me out and calling me a disaster, I can't die.
Just don't tell my mom.
I was afraid my mom would tie me up in the hospital and make me spend New Year's there. I stared at him and asked the key question. "Speaking of which, you're not the type to care if I live or die. What are you doing here?"
Just passing by.
His expression changed, and he even blushed a little. "I'm lowering myself to check if you're dead yet." I glanced out the window and understood. Oh, this is a college.
District.
Did you fall for a college student? He suddenly got flustered, his face turning even redder. He stormed toward the door. If I ever come to check on you again, I'm a dog. Did I hit the mark? I shouted at his back. David, you didn't fall for a college guy.
Did you?
He responded with a punch gesture. The floating text became lively. The male lead fell in love with the female lead at first sight on the street and actually followed her to her campus. If the male lead's mom hadn't insisted he invite the supporting character over for dinner, he wouldn't have come, I wanted to say. He left too fast and didn't even tell me his aunt invited me to dinner. 2 minutes later, the doorbell rang. I hopped over to open it. Why are you back? But it was Chris Anderson at the door. Behind Chris were many people. Such a big entourage scared me so much that I lost my balance while standing on one leg, and I started falling backward. As Chris caught me, both my hands landed on his chest. What a nice feeling. Your foot isn't convenient, so I hired people to take care of you. But could you stop squeezing first? Since he wasn't immediately drawn away by the female lead. Don't blame me for fighting for what I want. I didn't let go, still enjoying the feeling. And I asked him again. Chris Anderson, let's get married, okay? But before we get married, could you please stop squeezing? Sorry, it's just that I've never touched. Wait, what did he just say? He actually agreed. I froze. My hands were still pressed against the solid muscle of Chris Anderson's chest. The heat radiating from him was real, unlike the cold, neon pink text floating aggressively above his head. System alert. Critical error. The second male lead cannot agree to the villainess's proposal. He is being sarcastic. He must be sarcasm. I looked up at Chris. His expression was calm, his eyes holding a hint of amusement that danced behind his rimless glasses. He didn't look sarcastic. He looked like a man who had just closed a very satisfactory business deal. You agreed? I stammered, my bravado vanishing. Wait, did you hear the part where I said marriage? Like, legal binding, sickness and health sharing a Netflix password marriage? Chris gently set me upright, though he kept a steadying hand on my elbow. I heard you, Miss Wilson. You need a shield against an arranged marriage. I need a wife to stop my board of directors from nagging me about my instability as a bachelor. We both seem to handle crisis situations well. He glanced at my bandaged foot. Well, mostly well.
No.
He's supposed to look at her with disgust. Look at her fractured bone. It's unrefined. Refined, I muttered at the text. I kicked a thief. That's civic duty. Talking to yourself? Chris asked, raising an eyebrow. Just calculating the dowry. I lied smoothly. He chuckled. The sound was deep and rich, like expensive coffee.
Good.
The team behind me is here to install a temporary ramp and assist you. Since we're getting married, I can't have my fiancé hopping around on one leg before New Year's. The floating text began to scroll so fast it made me dizzy. This is a plot hole. The author is going to fix this. Just wait until the company gala next week. Emily Rain will be there in a white dress. Chris will realize his mistake immediately. I grit my teeth. The company gala. That was the scene where the second male lead was supposed to publicly friendzone the supporting character and share a soulful gaze with Emily. Chris, I said, a sudden determination seizing me. If we're doing this, we're doing it right.
Come in.
We need to sign a prenup, and I need to introduce you to my dog. Lead the way, he said. The next 3 days were a blur. Chris was efficient. Terrifyingly so. By the time New Year's Eve arrived, we had not only signed the papers, but he had also charmed my golden retriever, Barnaby, into traitorous submission. Bringing him to my parents' house was the real test. As we pulled up in his sleek black sedan, the floating text reappeared on the dashboard. The relatives are going to tear her apart. They know she's lying about a boyfriend. Just wait for the humiliation. David is inside, and he's going to expose her fake relationship. I took a deep breath. Chris reached over and laced his fingers through mine. His hand was large, warm, and reassuring. Nervous? He asked. My aunt has a tongue sharper than that thief's knife, I admitted. I negotiate billion-dollar mergers, Sarah. I think I can handle Auntie Linda. We walked in. Well, I hobbled in on my stylish new crutch, Chris supporting my other side. The living room was packed. My mom looked ready to defend me with a spatula. My dad was hiding behind a newspaper. And there was David. He was peeling an orange, looking bored, until he saw us. The orange peel fell from his hand. Sarah? David stood up, his eyes darting from my crutch to Chris's hand on my waist. Hi everyone, I announced, flashing my brightest smile. Sorry we're late. This is my fiancé, Chris Anderson. Silence. Absolute, pin-drop silence. Then, chaos. Anderson? My uncle adjusted his glasses. As in, Anderson Tech. The one on the Forbes list? My cousin squeaked. Chris smiled, a polite, shark-like smile. It's a pleasure to meet the family that raised Sarah. She speaks of you vividly. David marched over, his face a complicated mix of shock and something darker. You're lying, he hissed at me, ignoring Chris. You hired him. How much? I'll double it to make him leave. Chris stepped forward, smoothly blocking David's path to me. The air temperature dropped 10 degrees. Mr. David, Chris said, his voice dangerously calm. I am not for hire. And I suggest you lower your voice when speaking to my wife.
Wife.
The word hung in the air. David flinched as if slapped. System error. David's jealousy levels are spiking. This is wrong. He's supposed to be annoyed, not jealous. He loves Emily. Jealous. I whispered to myself. David. David looked at me, his eyes red-rimmed. You actually married him? Yes, I said, lifting my chin. I told you, didn't I? David let out a harsh laugh, running a hand through his hair. I thought you were bluffing. I always thought you were just bluffing. He turned and stormed out of the house. The floating text flickered uncertainly. Male lead has exited the scene prematurely. Plot deviation. 15%. Rerouting narrative. The rerouting happened a week later at the annual business gala. I was wearing a dress Chris had picked out, a stunning emerald green silk that flowed over my cast, making me look like a wounded but glamorous mermaid. Stay close to me, Chris murmured as we entered the ballroom. The sharks are circling. I see them, I said. But I wasn't looking at the business rivals. I was looking at the floating text hovering over the buffet table. Here it comes. The spilled wine incident. Sarah will try to trip Emily, but Chris will catch Emily instead. This is the moment their hearts connect. And there she was. Emily Rain. She was wearing white, looking fragile and ethereal, holding a glass of red wine. She spotted Chris, and her eyes lit up. Mr. Anderson, she called out, weaving through the crowd. She was coming straight for us. I tightened my grip on Chris's arm. Chris, 3 o'clock. Incoming distressed damsel. Chris glanced over. Miss Rain? The one who runs into thieves. The very same. Emily reached us, breathless. Oh, Mr. Anderson, I'm so glad to see you. I want to thank you again for the hospital bills. You're such a hero. She took a step closer, ignoring me completely. I feel so safe when you're around. She accidentally stumbled on the hem of her own dress. The red wine in her glass launched forward, aimed directly at Chris's white shirt. Here it is. He catches her. I didn't think. I reacted. My reflex, honed by dodging David's soccer balls for 20 years, kicked in. I swung my crutch forward.
Clack.
My crutch intercepted the wine glass in midair, knocking it sideways. The red wine splashed all over me instead of Chris, soaking the front of my emerald dress. Silence fell over the nearby group. Emily stood there, frozen in a falling pose that nobody had caught. She awkwardly straightened up. Oh my God. Sarah, look what you did. You ruined your dress. I looked down at the stain. It actually blended in quite artistically with the dark green. Better my dress than my husband's shirt, I said coolly. He has a speech in 10 minutes.
Chris looked at me.
His eyes weren't on Emily. They were glued to my wine-soaked chest, his expression unreadable. Then, he took off his tuxedo jacket and draped it over my shoulders. You have excellent reflexes, Mrs. Anderson, he whispered near my ear. Then he turned to Emily, his voice dropping to sub-zero temperatures. Miss Rain, please be more careful. If my wife hadn't intervened, you would have humiliated me before a keynote address. What? He's scolding the female lead?
No.
He's supposed to find her clumsiness endearing. Emily's eyes filled with tears.
I didn't mean to.
Just then, David appeared. He saw Emily crying, saw me covered in wine, and saw Chris's protective stance. Normally, the male lead would rush to comfort the female lead and yell at the villainess. David walked up. He looked at Emily. Stop crying. It's annoying. Then he looked at me. You look like a grape that lost a fight. Shut up, David, I said, but there was no bite in it. Go get changed, David grumbled, tossing a room key at Chris. I have a suite upstairs you can use. Don't let her catch a cold, Anderson. System alert. Male lead character setting collapsing. Why is he helping the rival? Why isn't he comforting Emily? As Chris led me away, I looked back. Emily was standing alone, holding her empty glass. David was already walking away, checking his phone. I think, Chris said softly, that the story you're so afraid of is changing. You know? I stopped walking. I know you're fighting something, he said, pulling me closer. I don't see floating text, Sarah. But I see you. You treat the future like a bomb you have to defuse. I'm just telling you don't have to do it alone. My heart hammered against my ribs. Chris, the guy you're supposed to be, he dies. He dies saving her. Chris stopped. He cupped my face in his hands. I'm not dying for anyone, Sarah. The only person I'd take a bullet for is the one who blocked a glass of Merlot for me. The text wasn't giving up. It became vindictive. If the characters won't follow the script, the world will enforces the ending. The kidnapping arc is initiating. Target, Emily Rain. Collateral damage, Chris Anderson. It happened 2 months later. I was fully healed, back to jogging cautiously. Chris was at a site inspection for a new factory. I got the text notification, not on my phone, but in the air. Warning, warehouse fire event starting in 30 minutes. Chris Anderson has entered the building to save Emily Rain. You've got to be kidding me, I yelled. I grabbed my car keys. I didn't call the police. I knew from reading enough novels that the police always arrived 5 minutes too late. I called David. David, shut up and listen. The old textile factory on 4th.
Chris is there.
There's going to be a fire. Bring your security team. Why would? Just do it. I drove like a maniac. When I arrived, smoke was already billowing. The floating text was gleeful. The tragic ending. Chris pushes Emily out the window. The roof collapses. The audience weeps. I slammed the car door and ran. I saw Emily outside, coughing, covered in soot. She was safe. Where is he? I grabbed her shoulders. Where is Chris? He went back in, she sobbed. My cat. I thought my cat followed me in there. You and your damn animals. I screamed. I soaked my jacket in a puddle and ran toward the burning building. The heat was intense. Don't go in. You're a supporting character. You have no plot armor. You will die. Screw your plot armor. I roared, diving through the smoke. I found him pinned under a fallen beam, coughing, trying to leverage it up.
He wasn't dead.
He was fighting. Chris. Sarah? Get out, he yelled, his face smeared with ash. Not without you. I wedged myself under the beam. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Adrenaline is a hell of a drug. Combined with Chris's strength, we shifted the wood just enough for him to slide his leg out. The roof groaned above us. Roof collapse in 3, 2. Move. We dove through a window just as the structure behind us imploded. We landed hard on the grass, rolling away from the heat. I lay there, gasping for air, clutching Chris's shirt. He was alive. We were both alive. David ran up to us, pale as a sheet. He looked at the burning building, then at us. He dropped to his knees. You possessive maniac, David breathed, looking at me. You actually ran into a fire? He's my husband. I wheezed. Expensive cancellation fees. The floating text above the ruins flickered, buzzed, and then turned to soft, defeated gray. Plot deviation, 100%. The story has been broken. Recalculating. Error. Narrative control lost. Character, Sarah Wilson, has upgraded to main protagonist. The aftermath was surprisingly quiet. Emily Rain moved away. Without the universe bending over backward to make men fall in love with her, she found she had to work on her own personality. Last I heard, she was volunteering at a real animal shelter, learning that kindness takes work, not just tears. David didn't marry anyone. He focused on his company, though he started coming over for dinner at our place every Sunday. He and Chris developed a weird bromance where they complained about the stock market and made fun of my cooking. As for the floating text, it never completely went away, but it changed. One evening, a year later, I was sitting on the balcony with Chris. His head was in my lap, and I was reading a book. Text appeared in the air, soft and gold. Scene, a quiet evening. The male lead and the female lead enjoy a peaceful moment. I smiled. Hey, Chris. The text is back. He opened his eyes. What does it say? It calls me the female lead. Chris reached up and pulled me down for a kiss. Took it long enough to catch up to what I knew the moment I saw you at that coffee shop. And what was that? That you were the only one real enough to handle me. I looked at the sky. The stars were bright, no longer obscured by neon warnings of doom. I had broken the script, fought the author, and fractured a bone, but I had won. I'm free tonight, I whispered, echoing the words that started it all. Sounds good, Mrs. Anderson, Chris replied. The floating text faded away, leaving us to write the rest of the pages ourselves.